Yeah,
we're back, baby.
We're back, baby. Episode 7.
2024.
Lucky 7.
7.
2024. Bring it on. It's all happening. Some big news in UFO. Exciting year ahead.
Yes. I think it's going to be a fairly revelatory year. Should have some interesting things going on.
Yeah, we're turning up the heat.
Yeah.
Turning up the heat. If you can't handle it, get out of the kitchen.
Anyway, enough with the cliches.
Yeah, how was your Christmas, Sam? All good?
Yeah, it was good. Just some family stuff and had a pretty subdued New Year, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same here, yeah. Just bit of family time. Didn't really get much time off work.
Yeah.
But that's how it is sometimes. But no, it was good.
No rest for the wicked. But yeah. Lots in the pipeline to be happening. Lots that is continuing and still ongoing. And, plenty really happened last year. So, I mean, lots of places have done a review of the year in UAPs in 2023. But I think it'll go down as the year that we had Grusch, the Grusch testimony and the first real sort of thing under oath with him, Fravor, and Graves.
Yeah, I think it was the Ross Coulthart and Bryce Zabel's latest podcast. Did they title it the end of the beginning? I think.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good way to maybe sum it up. with this is last year, 2023 was the year of was the beginning of the big push. It looks like, and or we're coming to the end of the beginning. We're going into the next phase.
Yeah, and then there was, everyone's, well, not everyone, but there's been that diagram going around that said, their plan for disclosure in the different phases. But what's his name? Sheehan, Lou Elizondo's lawyer, Danny Sheehan, has been going around and saying with a similar sort of sentiment, basically, we've got these things that are basically established as facts now, and we kind of need to move past them. There's no real room for people coming out and saying, oh, there's no such thing as UAP. I mean, we're past that point now, where the discussion needs to move on from there.
Yep. And yeah, it's happening. People are taking it more and more seriously. Even someone like me and probably yourself who have followed the subject for a long time, I even feel more comfortable talking about it to skeptics.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With a bit more confidence, and saying, look, there's, you might be skeptical, but you really need to have a serious look at what is happening around the subject. And because there's a lot of credible people, there's a lot of credible information now, coming out, and it's really good to see. And I don't know, do you feel the same? Like you
yeah, absolutely. It's the ball game's completely changed. I think the can has been kicked down the road. There is a certain amount of toothpaste out of the tube, whatever, which way you want to express it. We're definitely further along than what we were Look, it kind of started in 2017, but we're way further along than that now. And it just seems to be snowballing. So
toothpaste doesn't go back in. Once it's out, you can't get that shit back in there. So
yeah. Thanks, Kate.
We got a comment, do we?
Yeah. Just Kate wishing us a good podcast.
Hi, Kate. How are you? Thanks for commenting. Leave us a like. If you do tune in, please subscribe. Please like.
Just hit 100 subscribers, so huzzah. We're hitting the big time now.
We're big time, 100 subscribers. No, look, this is a year we really want to put some more effort into the way we do things. We're excited about 2024.
Yeah, and we've got a few more ideas. I started the Who the Hell Is last year, and I'm going to continue on with that. A new episode should be coming fairly soon. But we've got ideas for other sorts of shows as well, and guests, interviews, even some networking with other channels, doing some roundtables and things like that.
Yeah. I think that'll be one of the big moves we try this year is networking with other channels, like you said, and inviting them on and having a chat, because it's good to talk to like-minded people from all around the world and get their opinions and have a bit of a open discussion on recent events and how we feel about our opinions. And good UFO chat always comes with a bit of speculation as well, which is half the fun.
But also, getting some local stuff going, trying to cover our Australia's UFO history. And it's not, we're not without a UFO history. Absolutely. And it actually, if you really want to get into it, I mean, you could say that our UFO history goes back 40, 60,000 years with a lot of Aboriginal culture and the sort of stories that they have in their past, their oral traditions and things like that. So, I mean, from that to Pine Gap, we've to Westall to was that one the guy on the plane who was delivering papers? That's a fairly famous one as well. Coming over from Tasmania or from New Zealand or something like that.
In between North and South Island, I think, in New Zealand.
Yeah, and we claim it. If it's in New Zealand, that's Australian.
It's Australian.
Hey, and well, I mean, Ross Coulthart, I mean, classically Australian in that he's actually a Kiwi.
Yeah, I think
born in the UK.
Was he born in the UK? Okay,
UK,
I know he went to school in New Zealand.
Yeah, so he was born in the UK, pretty much raised in New Zealand, and then came to Australia and did. I think that's where he did his higher education.
So he's Australian.
Yeah, if he's a Kiwi and he's famous, then he's Australian. Thank you, Crowded House.
He's Crowded House are Australian.
Exactly.
Russell Crowe's Australian. Is
Sam Neill Australian?
Sam, he's Australian. They're all Australian. Well, it took an Australian journalist to get on that plane and capture that footage and make that story. Kiwi couldn't do it. No. I'm giving Kiwi shit. Your dad's a Kiwi.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have great love for Kiwis. We've got one of our best mates, Gav, is a Kiwi. And hey, Gav, if you ever watch this, g'day, mate.
And if you don't know, Australians and Kiwis, the way we show our love for each other is to hang shit on each other.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We love you
but
guys.
anyway, yeah. So 2024 should be good for us. Hopefully, we'll get some more things going.
All right. So, big thing that's happened in the last sort of even less than 24 hours is I woke up this morning and had a barrage of videos and tweets and things all about the Jellyfish UFO. Good.
I woke up this morning to Corey's message about the Jellyfish UFO because he's ahead of me.
Yeah, well, yeah, must have been. You must have been getting pinged at sort of 6 a.m. 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning by that one.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't care. This is big news. I got to send it.
Yeah.
It's Lem's fault if his phone's not on silent.
That's true.
Yeah. So, yeah. Pretty crazy footage.
I think it's a good bit of footage. It's got that classic. It definitely looks like legitimate military footage. At the very least, I could say that. I mean, I've only seen one very brief analysis of it on News Nation, and he made a few good points in that it's likely not a camera artifact for the simple fact that the reticle of the camera, like the object moves around and the reticle like stays at a certain point. So I know there's going to be a ton more analysis. You know, there is. It'll hit the internet and people will just be picking it apart and doing all sorts of things. I'm sure Mick West will have his 2 cents worth to say about it. But Jeremy and George seems ultra pumped about it. I was literally just before we came live, I was looking on Reddit and there's a good George Knapp quote. The jellyfish footage is legit. It is real. It was recorded by an astounded personnel. It was then buried. Jeremy and I have had it for a few years trying to track down more details. I see someone thinking it's a smudge on the camera. Debunkers need to do better than that. George tweeted that not too long ago. Yeah,
cool. I'll have to look that up because, look, we need the debunkers to have a look at it and try and debunk it. It's part of the process. We need the skeptics. But yeah, maybe I'll bring it up. Should I bring it up?
I guess we should. It's not a very long video, and we can sort of talk through it as well.
While we're talking about it, let me have a look. Is that it? That's it. Oh no, sorry, that's not it. It'll be the sort of link. Looks like it.
It does kind of look like it. It'll be the first link in the thingy.
Yeah, first link. We'll try again.
That's and see that's why. We'll talk about that in a sec. Once we've had.
All right, is that it? Is that it?
No, that's what I was going to bring up, but that's what everyone's saying that it looks like.
All right, joke's over. Joke's over. That's what it sort of looks like.
We'll be professional now.
No,
that's 100% what it looks. As soon as I saw it, I thought.
As soon as you say it, that's the first.
That's an Imperial. That's an Imperial drone right there.
And this is Corbell's raw footage. So let's just roll that in the background. Where is
now,
it?
keep
There
in
it
mind,
is.
this is all thermal imaging. So it changing color there is either an artifact or it's changing temperature rapidly. And it does fly. It does fly past a couple of people in one point. I remember seeing it's just hovering, flies past a couple of people. I think if it was in the visible light spectrum range, they probably would have seen it and freaked out.
So that's a story with this, that it was not visible to the naked eye. It was only visible through thermal imaging.
Yeah.
This looks like
so again, this would be a FLIR, which is a front-looking infrared. I mean, if anyone's watched the Tic Tac, you pretty much know what a FLIR video looks like. And to me, this is, exactly what it looks like. It's just odd that it's changing, it's changing its heat signature almost like it's trying to blend in.
I want to comment about that in a bit. But first, while I'm thinking of it, what I did want to say is the people trying to debunk this, because I actually showed this to a couple of people this morning that I knew was big skeptics.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, it's bird poop on the lens or something, it's a smudge or whatever.
Yeah.
Look, ask those questions. Let's investigate and see if we can prove or disprove that. But a good thing that I pointed out, and whatever you think about Jeremy Corbell, whether you like him or not, he gets a little bit annoying. But an important thing to remember is that he leaked the original Tic Tac video, right? And that was then later authenticated by, let me go back. That was later authenticated by the Pentagon, right?
Yeah. But you got to people. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there, and what I want to give a shout out to John Greenwald Jr. from the Black Vault, because he was really the one that pushed the White House and the DoD to get that authentication.
Yeah. So yeah, whatever you think about Jeremy Corbell, he's done this before, and he's proven that obviously he's been sitting on this for a while, and he's done a lot of fact checking and cross checking his sources. Yeah. And
I think they've done their due diligence on this one.
That's right. They've done their work. I think we got to have a bit of confidence in the work that he's done. He's convinced that this is real, and after the work that he did with the Tic Tac video, he gets a lot of credence for that. Yeah, for sure.
But also to the smudge or the bird poo thing, it moves like the distance between the reticle and, which is the aiming crossy bit in the middle, and the object changes. If it was a smudge on the lens, it would be the same the whole time.
Yeah.
Unless this is some kind of weird double lensing thing, which it might be. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it doesn't seem likely to me.
One of the debunkers that I talked to as well said, "Oh, well, this weapon system, the crosshairs can move around within the thing, but they can't. They can't. The crosshairs in this targeting system are fixed in the middle. Yeah. So they do."
Well, and that's the other thing. I know you can see normally in other videos, you think of the Tic Tac video, and they actually get a lock on it. Like the crosshairs are on it, and it's not moving. And the other thing I heard about this video is and I think it was when Jeremy was doing his TMZ thing, is they couldn't get a lock on this thing. They could see it, but they couldn't get a lock on it.
They couldn't get a lock on it. Yeah. So I think he said something. He said something about all systems going down as well.
I think there was that. There was quite a few things going on, and further to that, I mean, this is just the footage that they released. The story after that is it went out over the water then went into the water for almost 20 minutes. I think it was like 17 minutes, then came out of the water and shot off at a 45-degree angle at an extremely fast speed. So that's the end of the story. Who knows whether we'll get the rest of that footage, but I think this is actually, this is probably pretty good footage.
Now, one thing I want to point out that I am a little bit unsure of is, I'll just try and find a good part of the video. Now, when it's turning from black to white, it's actually, when it goes black, the contrast on the background actually increases. Like the black becomes blacker in the background. And when it turns white again, the background turns whiter. So that that had me a little bit like unsure as to why that's happening.
Maybe the whole camera's just readjusting and the whole picture's becoming one or the other. So maybe the object's not changing temperature. Maybe it's just, it looks like it's changing temperature because the whole picture's changing color and it changes more relatively to the rest of the picture. Yeah. I still don't think that means that the object isn't there or that it's some kind of, camera artifact.
Yeah. Because, notice this is actually the second. You see these sort of barriers here, what look like concrete barriers maybe. As it enters the shot here, they're very dark. As it gets to the end of those, they go all white.
Oh, yeah.
And as that goes white, so look, I just think that's worth pointing out because, look, I don't want to just not point out the things that I notice. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
I'd like to know more, but yeah, let the debunkers go. I mean, we might have the Pentagon come out and say this is legit, and then everyone just shuts up. Another thing that might happen is, which I thought maybe this is tactical, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just letting my imagination run, but Jeremy Corbell said there's also some footage of it descending into the water, right? For 17 minutes, coming out of the water and taking off again. They might leave this with us, let the debunkers have a crack at it, and then release the footage of it descending into the water. That would be cool. I think if they could do that, it might just, put to bed some of the, let the debunkers come up with their theories and then release the other bit of footage, which just sort of, bins all the debunks, rebunks it.
Well, I mean, I think, anytime a government is going to say, yeah, this is an official video, I would not be surprised if this is the Tic Tac all over again, like Tic Tac 2.0. What did we have, like 6 months after Corbell released it, the government finally came out and said, yeah, this is legitimate. We don't know what it is. That might be the big thing that a lot of people were hinting at. Yeah.
And man, this ad keeps getting me. What I was going to say is, this was also, I don't know if we mentioned, this came from a new 3-part series special, I believe, airing on Tubi by TMZ.
Yeah.
The preview dropped, I think, last week for it. It looks awesome. The first episode was last night. This came out of the first episode. So it looks like a ripper series. And we're going to have to check that one out. Lem.
Hold your Jeremy Corbell disdain at bay for a while and give it a fair run.
Yeah. So what if you're watching this with us, what do you think about the Jellyfish UFO? Do you guys excited about it?
A couple of comments I do want to make on it, and just the things that came to my mind. It's a pretty non-traditional sort of UAP sort of thing. I was talking to Corey earlier before we went on air. I don't know if anyone knows the Metapod video which is another very non-traditional sort of UAP. It kind of brought that to mind. It's like almost a single person, a single creature occupant craft. Maybe it's a drone, but yeah, it just had the look like it could be that. But also the more interesting thing is, I don't know, it's more interesting if it's more interesting. But I remember Stephen Greer, and look, take it with a grain of salt and whatever you think of Stephen Greer. But he's made the point that if the craft you're seeing has external protruding parts, like if you actually zoom in, then if you take the Tic Tac video and you zoom in on it, it's a Tic Tac, but it's got these two little L parts coming off the bottom.
Yeah.
And Greer was adamant that means anything with something coming off without just being a smooth surface is a man-made object. And so that's I'm not saying that Greer's right about any of that, and there's lots of questions to be asked of Dr. Greer, but that's an interesting thing, that this is very much not a traditional UFO or UAP. There's no smooth surfaces to be seen, and most orbs or sources or discs, they're all very much smooth and have a particular aesthetic to them. This is very much doesn't have that aesthetic.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe a new man-made drone,
yeah,
super stealth or something. The other thing I want to point out is it's definitely not a balloon, because the way it's moving, it's not subject to. You can see it's not subject to any kind of air current whatsoever.
No,
it's moving in such a straight, still manner. There's nothing blowing. It's not slightly moving its orientation, because balloons go through thermals and up and down all the time. It's not doing any of that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty firmly in the camp it's not a balloon.
It's not a balloon. That ain't no balloon. I haven't really actually thought about it too much, but what do you, if you were to have a guess, what do you think it is? What do you think its purpose is? I would say it's definitely unmanned. It's not that would be my
Well, it's either
guess.
unmanned or single occupant. As I said, if we're talking about the metapod definitely looks like it had someone in it. And remember the first little image you brought up as a joke had the little alien driving on the top of that thing. I could see something like that being the case, but then again, just as easily not. It looks like it's not going to be huge. It might be the size of 2 people in total. So it's look, we can't. that ad owes us some revenue.
Yeah.
But we also it's over Iraq in 2018. So it's been a hot spot for almost ever. And it's a joint operations base, 2018. They're always it's got all the hallmarks of being an NHI UAP, in that it's very interested in war, but maybe they're testing a new surveillance platform.
And what do you think the chances are that it's possibly its own entity? It's a living organism itself.
Well, yeah, possibly. Maybe it's like a 4th dimensional being, and we're just seeing like some kind of representation of it. Then
because I go back to thinking of the famous NASA tether video, and those orbs that were filmed a lot out in space, sort of a pulsating orb that looked like a jellyfish. It looked they out in space, and there was hundreds of them.
Well, what about the space snake? Didn't some astronaut see and photograph like a huge space snake, and he said it was moving around out there? It was like a space snake or a space worm.
Oh wow, I'm not sure about. I haven't heard about that one. I can't remember it anyway. But I'd be interested to know about the space snake. But yeah, look, this just looks, it doesn't have the smooth edges. It's not a typical saucer shape or cigar shape or anything. It doesn't. It's almost organic looking in a way.
Maybe it's Mothman.
Sorry,
maybe it's Mothman.
Could be Mothman. I don't know much about Mothman. Isn't he from
No,
West
but
Virginia?
I know he just basically is a harbinger of doom. So wherever Mothman turns up, some bad stuff goes down afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is Iraq, so I imagine bad stuff's going down there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Middle East. Hope you're doing okay.
Yeah. Shout out to all our Iraqi brothers and sisters out there. Caitlin asks, what aircraft is filming this? And I'd have to say, it looks like, from what I understand about these types of targeting cameras, they're usually from, I don't know, that I'm not good with the names of the aircraft types, but it's those big planes that they fly like really high. They
with
fly
the
really
dishes
high
on them?
and they sort of circle a position, and they have amazing cameras. And
I think it's like the AWACS, basically the AWAC. But I think, if I remember correctly, this one might have been from a surveillance helicopter.
Yeah, I did hear someone say, I think it might have been Jeremy Corbell say he thought that maybe it was from a Black Hawk helicopter.
Yeah, and the ones they kit out for surveillance are pretty sophisticated. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not a drone. It's not like the drones that we classically have. I don't think it's one of those. But I think it could be one of those AWACS, the ones you're talking about that fly extremely high and have basically a radar dish on top of them.
And yeah, as disclosure unfolds as well, I think everything, the stories are going to get weirder and weirder, and about what the phenomenon is, and that just, it also brings back my question about is this its own entity? Is it a living organism itself?
But as I said, it's so still. That's why it makes me think it's mechanical, because it's no flapping. There's no nothing. It's just like so rigid.
Yeah. Which is, it's weird. It's very strange, but very cool. And I hope we get more. I think there's a big buzz around this at the moment, and I'd like to know. Sometimes we can see more information come over the course of a couple of weeks or so about what this actually is. We might even get more people speaking about it. Who knows?
Yeah. And look, I want this to add to the conversation and bring people in, but I also don't want it to distract people too much, because there's other stuff that we're going to touch on. For example, in about the next 3 hours, the ISIG skiff is going to happen.
Is that locked in? Is it?
It's locked in for the next. I read a tweet half an hour ago saying, and there was, we were talking about, there was that conjecture. Was it the 12th? Was it the 9th? Was there two different things? I finally nailed it down. It was the 12th. It got moved to the 9th, and it's happening at 9 a.m. Eastern time, which is in 3 hours our time.
Okay, excellent. So that is, by the way, if you are watching, leave us a comment. We're looking at the comments now. Ask us a question. Tell us what you think. If you ask us a question, we will answer and talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll have an open discussion. This is what we're all about here. We want to have an open discussion with people that want to join us. So please, we want to know what everyone's thinking on the subject, in particular, maybe the Jellyfish UFO.
Even if you think it's all bullshit or whatever, we'll get into it.
Yeah. But yeah, the ICIG, it's a skiff, isn't it? It's in the skiff?
Yeah. Well, they haven't used the term skiff, but they've definitely said it's a secure facility, and everyone's going to need temporary clearance. They're basically going to need temporary read-ins and temporary clearances to hear what this guy's going to say, because he's pretty much from what people are, thinking, he's going to be backing up or saying what went down with Grusch. Why did this guy Thomas Monheim say that Grusch's complaint was urgent and credible? Credible and urgent. So you know, the UAP caucus, Burchett, all the guys are going to be there. Luna, they're going to ask him some questions for sure. I mean, who knows what they're going to be able to hear, but they'll ask him some questions and it'll be on official record. And if they can release it, I'm pretty confident in, you know, the guys who we've talked about so often, the politicians in this, what they call the UAP caucus, from both sides of the aisle, they'll release what they can, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
They're pretty up for transparency.
Oh yeah, they'll want to give us something if they can, but yeah, we've talked about this a few times, and we think that the best outcome is they can come out of it and let us know that it was a positive meeting and they have something to help them in their their chase for the truth.
Yeah.
We're not likely going to get any bombshell stories come out of it. So
no.
But let's hope for a positive. Let's hope for a positive. Let's hope these guys walk out and go, yeah, we got some good stuff.
Yeah. Well, one thing I do want to bring up as well, which is it will be a positive if they get some good details, is that I know that it's the Schumer amendment. That was a whole cluster F, but the new Speaker of the House, whatever you think of him, he's a bit crazy. Not a bit crazy. So whatever, Mike Turner. But have been pretty much assured that they're going to get another hearing. So what I'd like to see come out of the skiff is the list of names who they can then subpoena for that hearing.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's like, or maybe not even subpoena, just, okay, these are the whistleblowers. Let's go talk to them. Let's say, okay, we're going to give you full whistleblower protection. Please come in and you know, give your testimony at the next hearing.
That's really what we need early on in 2024. I think we really need another whistleblower, at least one more whistleblower. I mean, if we can get multiple whistleblowers, that would be amazing, to come out and tell their story, back up David Grusch.
Well, I think there definitely will be another couple. One of the names we've already talked about was Nell, Colonel Nell or ex-Colonel Nell.
Yep. Carl Nell, yep.
Carl, yeah, he's pretty much touted to be in the next group of whistleblowers.
Right.
So okay. I'd be keeping an eye out for him in the next 2 to 3 months.
Yep. No, I think another whistleblower with the same story and maybe even some more knowledge than David Grusch could really, bust this thing open.
Because it's already grabbing a lot of public attention. You know, we were talking about it before. But look, I sent you a link the other day on the ABC, and this isn't the American ABC. We've got the Australian Broadcasting Commission. It's pretty vanilla sort of news. They had front and center on their website a big UFO UAP, which was taking the whole matter seriously. Article.
Yeah.
So, you know, it wasn't a dismissive, ha, 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 look at this. It was like, okay, we need to take this stuff seriously. This is what's happened in the last however long. Yeah.
No, good to see Australian media starting to pick it up. And another whistleblower, I think mainstream will start jumping on it.
Well, and I definitely think they'll push that. I mean, you know, because there's a lot of crew working behind the scenes for disclosure. Especially since, you know, they've really kind of neutered the Schumer amendment, which is passed now. So it's passed with basically no oversight committee, no subpoena powers, and no eminent domain. But they still got some things through. Some people are saying, at least it's not nothing. Some people are saying, it's worse than nothing because it's, you know, just mollifying people. So, you know, you go, oh, here's your UAP thing, now move on. Basically, it compels, I think if I remember correctly, it compels the DOD and associated departments to give up their records to the National Archives. Now, that doesn't mean it would be open to the public because there's still National Archive records that are classified, but it does mean that the Congress people would have access to them. Or certain Congress people would have access to them. I guess people who are in the committees who have clearances. So, you know, take it as you will. It might be a step in the right direction. Plenty of people think it is. So That's something at least. There's plenty of UAP language in that bill still. So
Yeah.
you can't go, oh, there's no such thing as UAPs. Well, why is it written 20 odd times in this piece of legislation?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I want to move on if we can. Just talk about a couple of other things we have here. Maybe just quickly on the Y-Files recent
and
episode.
Always a big shout out to the Y-Files. AJ does some great work and is very entertaining.
Yeah. And the latest episode that he did is getting a bit of quite a few comments in the UFO circles because he does make some comments at the end, and he refers to David Grusch and some other witnesses and whistleblowers, if you want to call them that. And he sort of disses them or questions their motives.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the best way to put it, because I think what he actually says is people like David Grusch, Lou Elizondo, even Christopher Mellon are all ex intelligence people, and I take everything they say with a grain of salt. And that's actually a fair way to look at it. I mean, he didn't say I don't believe them or they're full of shit or whatever, but he's just coming at it with a skeptical view. Look, personally, I'm not probably as skeptical. I know I don't think AJ. Well, look, you and I have been following this for a long time, and we know all the players who have been around. You get a feel for people, but it's always good to stay fairly skeptical.
Keep an open mind. One person who isn't ex-intelligence is Stephen Greer. So think about that maybe a little bit. Stephen Greer, he cops a bit of flack here and there, but he's been doing it for a long time, and he's not ex-intelligence. So if he's saying something different to all of the people that are intelligence, maybe we just need to keep that in mind when listening to what he has to say. Yeah.
And look, and credit to everyone where it's due. Like I can understand his knockers, and I can understand his people who are pro Greer. He's done a lot of good work in the past. I think in the late 90s and early noughties, he was the one really pushing a lot of that stuff. But then, he's done some questionable stuff later on. So, who knows? Maybe you just got to make $1. Maybe he got corrupted. Maybe he got, maybe they got to him. Who knows? But I think it's worth considering alternate views.
Yeah. This episode on the Y-Files that's playing on the screen now was a really good episode. Had a lot to do with, it was all about the remote viewing programs that the CIA were running, or other intelligence agencies.
Well, it started in the SRI too, which was the Stanford Research Institute. Then they were being so successful that the CIA thought, oh, we should get involved in this.
Yeah.
It
talks about multiple remote viewers corroborating stories about alien bases hidden within some mountains and all different places around the earth, including deep in the ocean,
including one in Australia.
Which Mount Zeal, I didn't know anything about Mount Zeal. So from this Y-Files episode, they explain how the remote viewers viewed these bases, underground alien bases, hidden within mountains. And one of them was Mount Zeal in Australia. I looked up Mount Zeal straight away, and it's pretty damn close to Pine Gap.
I was going to say, I thought it wasn't far from Pine Gap, and it does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's just from a quick search, it's Mount Zeal's very close, just west of Alice Springs, and
Yeah, and Pine
maybe
Gap's
it's
not too far from
maybe it's
there.
100 k's from Alice Springs, pretty close. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing from a quick look at the map. And Pine Gap's in the vicinity of Alice Springs as well.
Mm.
It's thereabouts. I mean, Australia's a big place, but yeah, they're pretty close. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and look,
maybe.
it's a cracker of an episode. We both highly recommend it. But yeah, I mean, I guess look, I appreciate. I think a lot of people appreciate and take Grusch at his word, but it's good to stay skeptical. I can't see that this is all a massive psyop, and I hope it's not. I wouldn't see the point of what it is unless they're distracting us from something completely different, which we're completely missing. Who knows? But I know a lot of people have been working a long time, so I hope it's just I hope it's a result of that.
Yeah. No, good episode, and it yeah, just I thought maybe we should do, I'd really like to try remote viewing. You ever thought about having a go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've not any kind of writing anything down, but I have tried it a few times.
Oh, you've tried it?
Yeah. I'm just laying in bed, sort of, trying to think about something that you'd want to see and then seeing it, but then who knows what it is versus imagination. That's why I think you probably need to do it in controlled settings and use the coordinates method. So you have no clue. Someone knows what's at those coordinates, but you have no clue what's at those coordinates, or you get a coordinates, and then that'd be the way to try and do it.
You don't know. I watched the video. We brought it up a few episodes ago. There was Chris Ramsey, I think his name was. He did a 3-part special, I think, on remote viewing, and he was doing it himself in these videos and is showing some of the techniques. So that I think there is almost and I think it was created by was it Skip Atwater or
Okay, yeah, well,
one of these. Yeah, one of these guys. They developed the techniques for remote viewing, and you can actually find out their techniques and try and practice them. So I'd like to give it a go.
Because there is that. I just like that other confirmation of, can I see something that I have no idea that is there?
Yeah.
Will my intuition of these set of numbers, even though I have no real meaning, no knowledge of what they mean, will that lead me in a certain direction? That's interesting to me.
Maybe we can try it one day on a special episode and get some viewers involved in helping to make the subject for the remote viewing, and we can try
send it to us, and then we can try and remote view it.
Yeah. But also what you mentioned too about the Aboriginal stories, I just made a note here too. Maybe we should look at doing a special on the history of the Aboriginal story, the Australian Aboriginal stories revolving around the idea of visitors from somewhere else.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
That would be very cool. And you and I both grew up with a lot of Aboriginal mates. And I knew their stories from, when we used to go out to the beach, and they'd say, well, certain spirits live here and they come at this time. And, it can't all be mythology. I mean, there's too many, it seems like there's too many connections, especially when you start looking at some of the cave art, and it's like, they're drawing things that you see like kangaroos and goannas and snakes and stuff, but they're also drawing these other beings. And it's like, I don't know. I'm not an anthropologist, but it would be very cool.
The Woodachi stories got me pretty scared actually, but it's almost, but you could tell when I was being told by our mate when we were kids about the Woodachis, that these beings that come out of the bush at night, and they're quite scary. They sound quite scary. But yeah, you could tell that our friend Michael, who was telling me this story, he believed it. He fully believed it. And
I remember he wouldn't stay in that area after sundown. He'd be out of there. It's like we'd be hanging out in this area and it'd be like, hey, oh, where'd Mike go? Nope, it's sundown. He's out of here.
We'll move on. I've got Tucker Carlson down here as a note because he's, used to be ex-mainstream media. He got booted from Fox. He's now doing his own thing. I think he has a show on Twitter. I've never actually really watched it, but I know he did do an interview with David Grusch.
Yep.
And he's been reporting on some of these stories, and he did an interview on another show called Redacted, it's on YouTube.
I saw a bit of that actually.
Yeah, I've got a bit of it here. I might just show it if I can find it here. Let's have a look at this. I might just play a little bit of what he says. Have you heard of what he said, Lem?
I'm pretty sure if it's the one I'm thinking of, I believe I have, but play away.
I'll just play a little bit. Yeah, we'll have a listen to what he says. Tucker Carlson, he's a lot of people listen to Tucker Carlson, so getting him talking about the subject is it's good news.
Yeah, and despite what your politics are, if you're a supporter of disclosure, people of this level talking about it is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that some of them were right, is what I'm learning. And I'll just leave it there. The second thing that bothers me is the UFO story. And, the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story. So I think I know, what I'm talking about. Yeah. But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all of these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And I understand that, because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that, honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. Forget like saucers and technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. Yeah. I agree with you. It's so disturbing.
Well, that line that I haven't even told my wife, that was one that did the rounds.
Yeah. And I think he makes a really good point there, and it's sort of what we've talked about a bit too, is you sort of, the public, there's some big shit hidden in this story. There's it's fucking strange. It's weird. There is some weird shit that people are gonna have a really hard time in coming to terms with.
I think Tucker Carlson, I think, is a fairly religious person, and he did mention the spiritual aspect of it, and that was actually one of the notes I made about this. Is that more and more, every time someone talks about it who it's like, oh, I've just been introduced to this topic and I'm talking to some people who are in the know, it's more about, okay, you better get ready for some real spiritual and or truths about consciousness, because I think that's going to be the whole paradigm that shifts.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to disturb people.
That's right. Yeah, that'll be the hardest hitting part of it is, let go of materialism, because there's a lot more going on, and some of it might be really dark as well. We can only speculate, but
then there's heaps of dark stories going around. Look, it could be that people are getting physically eaten and dissected or whatever, and that's possibly happening. I mean, there's cases of not, everyone knows about the cattle mutilations, but there's definitely been people mutilations as well, in very much the same vein. But then there's the soul harvester theory. There's a whole heap of crazy theories that could be ridiculously dark about this thing. I don't think it's dark. I just think it's probably dark from Tucker's perspective, where he's a pretty religious guy who has not really been exposed to this all his life. Whereas for someone like you or me, I don't think it'd necessarily be dark. It's not like we're going to all of a sudden lose faith in the Lord. We're just going to realize that it's a different expression of what we've kind of believed all along.
What something that pops to mind, another guy that pops to mind a lot, and I don't think a lot of people talk about him lately, but one of the OG guys in this topic who talks about a lot of dark stuff, David Icke.
Yeah.
Do we need to circle back around and listen to what he has to say? Because he is talking about dark entities overseeing the human population and controlling them, right? And
yeah. And I think that's probably, of all the things that are possible of the dark, I think that's probably that'd be the worst that could be possible.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, everyone thinks of the hybridized race thing and we're an experiment. That's sort of neutral. If we're a hybridized race to raise us to the next level, that's kind of positive. But if we're a hybridized race that's just there to feed, some other kind of entity, then that's pretty dark.
All interesting stuff. But worth mentioning Tucker Carlson talking about it. Both these guys, Clayton Morris, who hosts Redacted, Clayton Morris and Tucker Carlson both presented on, I think it was NBC morning show together. So they've been at the top of mainstream media in the US, and now they're both running independent media shows, their own shows, which is pretty cool.
Seems more and more people are doing that. And it won't be long until the old dinosaur media is going to die, I think.
It's dying quick. It's
like you can't even watch normal TV anymore. It's just horrific.
I watched it recently. I turned on the news probably the first time in over a year to try and get some reporting on the cyclone in Cairns a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
But I can't stand it. I gotta turn it off.
It's hard to watch.
It's depressing. It's terrible. They gotta get in the bin.
Yeah.
It's
like watching people sitting at the pokies. That's what it's like.
Yeah. And Caitlin asked, any ideas what they're referring to? I think we pretty much sort of covered that question. We don't know. we can speculate.
Yeah, we can speculate. And look, this has been my line the whole time. I think it's the end of materialism, and I hope it's nothing too dark. It could be, but I think it's probably a lot to do with consciousness. It's just every conversation you see these days, or every other conversation you see these days, they're mentioning consciousness. And all the abduction cases, 99.9% of that communication between the person, the abductor, and the abductee isn't verbal. It's all telepathic. So I don't see how a materialism can accommodate for that very well.
Yeah. So it's like it's got this big spiritual component. It's going to be fucking really weird. The full truth of the phenomena is going to be really fucking weird. And
I don't know if we'll get the full truth for a long, long time. I think they'll definitely try and play it out for as long as they can. But it seems a lot of people, and we've had the term going around catastrophic disclosure. It's a lot of people are pushing for it.
Yeah. Oh well. What else we got, Lem?
Well, I did want to touch on. I came across. Do want to give a quick shout out. If anyone wants to keep up what's going on in UAP land, UFO land. There's a really good site, and I think I've shouted them out before. Disclosure Diaries. I think it is disclosurediaries.com. And it just gives you a rundown week by week about what's happened in the last week in regards to UAP. It's pretty much, it's fairly USA centric, but then a lot of the news is coming out of the US anyway. But I did want to point out something that's just come in one of their latest posts, which is very cool. Ask a Poll, which is a political sort of site, did an article, 100 of 100 US senators on UFO whistleblower David Grusch. And it lists every senator in the US and how they feel, whether they're aware of David Grusch, where they picked that information up from, like what interview, around what time it was, and also what Senate committees that they're on, and sort of their, yeah. So, you know, for example, I'm just reading off the list. Kevin Kramer, aware, not looked into, works for the SASC, or is on the SASC, which is the, I think they're to do with the military committee, something like that. But yeah, it's a really good little bit. Actually, I would try and, I don't know if we can get it up on screen.
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, cool. And we'll try and do a link maybe in the comments or something. But yeah, that's a really nice little list. It's very interesting to go through and see who's supporting and who's. They even go down to say like someone was mocking of it or completely dismissive of it. I think Ted Cruz was mocking of it, and it's like, yeah, well, Ted, you can go take a running jump, mate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one. So shout out to the Disclosure Diaries and a good little list there to have a look at. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Matt Laszlo who runs this site, and he's done some good work. I think he released on this website some audio from the senators that walked out of the first skiff. Which was Tim Burchett and is it Burlinson?
Yes,
and I think he caught Burlinson saying something like, "It's clear that someone's got some tech out there that we don't know about." He said something like that, and I think everyone went, "Shut up! Don't
yeah,
you weren't meant to say that."
That's the one thing you're not allowed to say.
Yeah. But yeah, he does some good reporting, Matt Laszlo. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's a great site. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? I did have down here. We mentioned Ross Coulthart and Gary Nolan's interview.
The full interview came out. So as you said, that was an interview back in 2022. But they basically just doled it out over a few series of things. This is the whole interview. Very much worth a look. Obviously, Ross is going to get a bit more attention from us, and anyone in the field or in the UAP space knows who Gary Nolan is. Absolutely bloody legend. Head of the Soul Foundation with Grusch. And really good interview. Yeah. One of the things that caught my attention, and I actually wrote it down here, so I've just got it. He confirmed that there's an agreement between TTSA and the Army to test terawatt range, i.e. levitation material. And when Ross pressed him further on it, he said, "I'm not allowed to comment." So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, TTSA. Who's that?
Yeah. To the Stars Academy. That's Tom DeLonge's.
To the Stars. Yep.
Yeah. So they had apparently they had some metamaterial. They had an agreement with the US Army, which I had heard about quite a few years ago. And the fact that Gary also referenced it, because I didn't think that he was involved with TTSA at all. I mean, obviously he'd know them. But him saying that, you know, he knows all about it and he can't talk about it. Okay, maybe he's a bit more involved than we first thought. Because, you know, he's also doing material analysis. He's doing it at Stanford, I think, or wherever he is. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was a great interview. Yeah,
absolutely, and we would again recommend it.
Yeah. watch Ross Coulthart with Gary Nolan. I think it's about an hour, around about
and
an hour.
And that's the other thing that gets me. It's on 7. 7 News is like a standard Australian mainstream broadcaster. I couldn't even think of an equivalent in America, but it's crazy to me that 7 actually did a bunch of stories with a serious journalist like Ross, and it was all, you know, given. I'd never heard of it at the time, but obviously they put a bit of money into the production as a fairly professional looking interview.
Yeah, I think Ross has done, I think, maybe 2 UFO specials for Channel 7 now over the last couple of years. And one of them was where I had seen clips of that interview before were inserted into that UFO special that he did. So yeah, if you haven't seen those, they're really cool. They're awesome. Ross Coulthart, I can't remember the names, but he talks, he goes around the world. He interviews some people in the US who witnessed a craft crashing into a mountain. That was really cool. He interviews witnesses from the is it the Harold Holt base up near Exmouth?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he goes.
And see, I've always had my thoughts about things up around Exmouth, which is a place in northwestern Australia for people who aren't West Australian or Australian. Because another thing I know about off the West Coast, there's a massive antenna, which supposedly they use. It's an underwater antenna that they use for submarine communications. So
okay. Because the Exmouth facility is a submarine.
Well, maybe it's off there then, but I had a feeling it's lower than, like it's in a lower latitude than that.
Okay, maybe there's another one. Yeah,
like sort of near Yanchep. Well, I know that. Well, look, and then there's Pierce Air Base, which is up at Bullsbrook, and they train the SAS up there, and that's highly classified. That stuff. I mean, I only know about it because I used to do cadet camps at Pierce Base. But yeah, when we're on base, we're talking to some of the guys, and you know, it's nothing to do with UFOs or UAP, but yeah, there's highly classified stuff going on in WA. And as we said, we've got Pine Gap, so I think Australia is an interesting place for that kind of stuff.
There is a US military base, I think, where you said, I think it's closer to Lancelin, which is just a bit further north of Yanchep in Western Australia. Yeah. And Brett, my uncle, Brett, he lives up near that place, and there's a famous Google Earth image that was right next to my uncle's house, and it's a big black triangle in a field. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a black triangle in a field, and it's got like yellow dots in each corner, and I think there's a yellow dot in the middle. I'll show you this later if you haven't seen it, Lem.
Yeah. We got another comment here just quickly from Hinky Punk Artist and Jewelry. Isn't there meant to be a mountain in Australia where it's meant to be a UFO base? Yeah, we were just talking about that. What was it? Mount Teal?
Zeal.
Sorry, Mount Zeal. Yes. So
Zeal.
Mount Zeal. Go back and watch the rest. We did actually talk about that.
We did talk about Mount Zeal a bit before. And we're going to try and look into it a little bit more, see if we can find anything else cool.
Very interesting,
about
because it also, crossing over into the indigenous things, I wonder what, you know, if there's been an alien base there, how long's it been there? Hundreds, thousands of years. Is there some local mythology surrounding that place? That's what I'd want to know.
Okay, and now we got another comment from Paul, who's bringing up the Miami Mall alien incident.
Yes,
I've been following this a fair bit. I probably haven't seen everything on it, but yeah, it's weird.
Just a couple of things you told me, man. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a few people coming out as witnesses saying they were there and something strange definitely happened. They're all saying the same thing. Big, dark, tall, dark beings appeared out of maybe a portal. There's reports of they were saying there was some kids like this. The other side of the story is this was all about some kids starting a fight in the mall and shooting off fireworks. But some people were saying that some of the kids were seeing plugging in a device that and then turning it on, and that's what started all this weird shit, which is pretty crazy.
That is pretty
and
crazy.
These tall, dark beings appeared in the mall, which seemed to appear out of maybe a portal. And there's multiple witnesses saying the same thing. There was people in the streets. Police were confiscating, making people delete any videos they had taken or anything like that. So for police to be doing that, that's quite strange.
That was a crazy part to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And witnesses in the streets just saying, we seen a strange creature walking around the mall. It's really weird. It's really fucking weird. And if you've seen the images of what happened to police cars around the mall, I think people have counted them. Maybe it's close to 100 now that people have said they can count 100 cars. When have you ever seen 100 police cars being scrambled to one location? Pretty interesting, but it's not sure what to make of it entirely. I think me and Lem talked about this briefly the other night too, and I thought, maybe this is part of the psyop of leaking, getting this weird shit into the public psyche, making it more and more palatable, I guess, more acceptable to hear these types of stories and start to open your mind to the possibility that weird things like this are happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Paul, what do you think about the Miami Mall?
Well, like Caitlin's gone on to say, that's the weird thing for me. Why police? If it was aliens, wouldn't it be at the army or something? And I mean, maybe it might be that it's that psyop thing, or maybe it just caught everyone off guard. Maybe the police came in and were able to subdue it. The weird thing to me is that like the multiple stories of cops confiscating people's phones and deleting stuff off them. It's like if it was kids, even if it was an active shooter. So that's how they tried to explain. Well, that's the explanation for why there were so many cars, because kids were setting off fireworks. So they thought there was an active shooter in the mall. So obviously send all the cars. But then was SWAT showing up? It didn't see any SWAT cars. It just looked like normal police cars, but it was just a ton of normal police cars. So it's like something weird's gone on. Send every man we can down there just to at least find what's going on.
Yeah. Who's at our disposal quickly? It's the cops, right? Get them down there. Get everyone down there. Yeah, look, it's really weird. Hinky Punk, have you watched the TMZ UFO? No, but we did open the show tonight with the Jellyfish UFO. Yes. So we've been talking
Jeremy's
about
Jellyfish. I'm dubbing it Jeremy's Jellyfish. Going to make t-shirts.
Yeah, and I don't have access to Tubi as a streaming platform, so I'm going to try and figure out over the next week of how.
I was going to say, I think you can. I think it's not too hard. I think it's just a matter of using a VPN or something. Right.
Okay. Well, yeah, we will try and watch that and talk about it because it looks like a cracker of a series. So
yeah, and I will. Yeah, I was just going to say, Corey pointed out to me the latest Weaponized has Richard Dolan. So I'm actually normally I don't watch that show, and I mean, hats off to George Knapp. I love George Knapp. Jeremy, I find a bit painful, but if Richard Dolan's going to be on there, he's one of my go-to ufologists. He's pretty solid on the topic, so I'm going to check that out as well.
Yeah. No, all good.
And another just quick little aside, I will probably do a Who the Hell Is Richard Dolan, just to give people a bit more knowledge about what he's all about.
Yeah. I'll just finish my story before, because I was telling you about the
sorry.
black triangle on Google Earth, and next to my uncle's house, it's in like farmland, like rural Western Australia. It's not in the suburbs. So anyway, I went to Brett's house and I pulled up Google Earth for him. This is maybe 15 years ago. And I showed him and I said, "This is your house, yeah? And see, this is the farm next door. There's a big black triangle in the farm. What is it?" And he said, "I don't know. I'm going to call him." And he called up. And you know my uncle, he's a real
love Brett.
He's a real Aussie.
He's a bush Aussie boy.
He's a real bushman, and he's like, I can't remember that. "Hey Frank, you got a black triangle out in your paddock? We're looking at the Google Earth, and there's a big black triangle. Do you know what that is?" Nah, he's got no black triangle out in his paddock. So we didn't know what it was. And I actually wanted to get out and run over there, but that never happened. But I did ask Brett, because like I was saying, there is a US military base out near Lancelin.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you ever see anything weird out here, in the bush? Like there's a military base up there." And he said, "Sometimes there's lights that will come out and will just hover in the sky, and they'll go up and down, up and down, up and down." And he didn't think too much of it, but that's all he could say to me. But I thought, well, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, that is a bit interesting.
But yeah, anyway, bit of local West Australian UFO info.
Paul's said, "I think it's most probably real because the jigsaw puzzle pieces just don't fit, and it stinks of a massive cover-up." Definitely stinks. Something definitely stinks in the whole thing. Like there's something going off in the back of your mind. It's like, no, things aren't adding up here. So it's and then this is the other thing, right? I mean, people who think this whole thing, the whole UAP thing, could be is a massive psyop. That's just as big a problem as if there's UAPs and we're not being told about it. If they have this massive UAP psyop going, why? It's got to be costing them billions, if not trillions of dollars. So, why spend all that money?
There's no doubt in my mind. I think both things are happening. I think there's a real phenomenon that's there that's hard to explain and hard to prove. And there's also a psyop trying to put us on the wrong path to understanding 100%. This.
Muddying the waters. And they don't need to completely control the narrative. They just need to muddy the waters.
Yeah, that's right. It just makes us harder and harder to get to the truth. And hopefully, I'm hoping that the recent whistleblowers and the whole disclosure group, if you want to call them that, the modern group of, Lou Elizondo and David Grusch and Chris Mellon and all those
TTSA,
guys.
Sol, Danny Sheenan's New Paradigm Institute, even Greer's mob. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there and they all know each other and a lot of them work together.
I hope they're not part of the psyop and the disinformation. I really do, but you got to keep asking the questions.
Like AJ said, like take it with a grain of salt. Don't completely dismiss it, but don't swallow the whole thing.
Anyway, maybe we need to tie it up here, Lem.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good place to finish up. Thanks everyone for joining along. If you didn't catch the whole episode, it'll be up as soon as we finish. You can go back and watch us do our thing. Yeah. And we'll be onwards and upwards for 2024. It's going to be a good year, I think.
Yeah, we're going to do some cool stuff this year. Thanks everyone for watching. Yeah, like the video if you can. Subscribe.
Gives those YouTube feels. Awesome. Yeah,
we'd really appreciate that. And leave us lots of comments. We love the comments. I got to get better at replying to comments as well.
Oh, and the Twitter. We've got a Twitter. So we might try and be more doing stuff with that. What's it under? Just Beyond Disclosure 1 or something?
Beyond Disclosure 1. I think if you search Beyond Disclosure, you should find it.
You'll see our little logo come up.
Yeah, and I'll try and link it in the YouTube video. We're going to get better at Twittering. We're going to get better at replying to comments and all those
social
things.
media stuff. Yeah, we might even start streaming to other platforms as well. We'll see if we can work out this technology.
Yeah, cool. All right,
cool, man. All right.
Thanks,
good to talk to you. Good talk, and thanks to everyone. And we'll see you in a fortnight.
Yeah, cool.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.